Do you want to make more money while you sleep or while you're on vacation? If that's true, as it is for probably most of us, then hang on for just a few minutes and we're going to cover three key things that are going to help you make that happen. This is another week of our weekly tips on how to generate more leads, close more sales, or improve your profitability, all without spending extra dime on marketing or advertising. And today we're going to dive into the sales part of that. So this actually comes from a conversation that I had with one of my clients who has got a sales team. He's got three different guys. And let me paint a little bit of a picture for you and tell me if this sounds familiar. One of them is like an old school industry hardhead guy. He's been in it forever, knows his thing, came to the team after doing, selling roofs and other construction projects in a lot of other spaces for a really long time. He's kind of got his way that he goes about doing things. On the other end of the spectrum, another one of his sales guys is a new, green, hungry, up and coming kid who's got some great experience and has sold in other areas, but decides, hey, if I can sell these other things I've done in the past, why not apply that to construction into roofing? So let me kind of come up and come up through the ranks that way. And he's got somebody else who's a little bit in the middle. He's been around for just a handful of years and has, again, worked for some other players, but has decided that he wanted to join my client's team to help be one of the and help grow and advance his career. So very different stages. But what we found as we had this conversation is that when we dove into it, is that, there's a good chance that all three of these guys have their own different style of selling. And how well is that working? Do we know? And in his particular case, he didn't really have that clear of a picture as he'd like to know how we can help make sure these guys are performing at a better level and performing consistently. So whether you have a sales team now, or you're planning to get one because you don't want to be the only one that sells for your company forever, then we're going to jump into ways to help prepare for your sales team when you get it, or if you've got a team now, how we can help level them up so they can perform better and close more of your deals. You're doing all the hard work to get the lead in the front end. Let's make sure that nothing's slipping through your fingers out at the bottom. So let's jump into that today. And let's see if we can get the screen share to go. So grab a pen. We're going to dive in just a couple of quick fundamentals that are going to help you get more out of your sales process. So first step we're going to dive into is you need to document before you delegate. Oh, come on, pen. Okay, document before you delegate. And this is something where I know that if you're running the business, you should be, and hopefully are, the best sales rep on your team, best sales rep in the company. Nobody cares more about it than you. So you got to be the best. Maybe you can find people who are better at overall sales, but in terms of sales for your company, you got to be the absolute best. So, and a lot of times, a lot of the nuances in how you're selling and how you're closing deals right now is just kind of locked in the back of your brain. And it's not transferred out into a place that you can really train and scale it. So a couple of things, let's get really clear and just document, again, walk yourself through the last handful, half dozen or two sales that you've gone through with your clients and with your homeowners. And let's get some things really, really clear. Even down to the specifics, like what are the questions do you ask in each and every sales presentation? What are those key ones and how are you establishing the need, creating the gaps? How are you really assessing and interviewing the homeowner, getting to know what it is they're looking for? So get those questions documented and explicit. At what point do you do, as an example, oh, come on, my pen, here we go. Demonstrations. At what point are you demonstrating? You're showing things? Are you giving people some visuals? Is that part of your process? When is that happening and how does it work? You can just get it documented so it's clear it's the right way to do it. When and how do you talk about pricing? What does that look like? If it's not clear and it's not documented, you're not going to be able to delegate it and measure it and improve it effectively. So let's get the pricing piece, that stage of your process clear. How are you setting expectations? We know that that's something that doesn't happen on accident. How is that happening with your homeowner? Are you, from a timing perspective, from a preparation for what needs to happen? We know that's one of the biggest frustrations is when we feel like expectations aren't met. We want to I think what is the saying is we want to under promise, over deliver, but wait, let's make sure that that's clear. How is that happening explicitly in your sales process? Again, get it documented so we know, and so it can be something that can be trained. At what point do you ask for the sale? Not only at what point do you do it, but how is that happening? Phrasing matters, tone matters, timing matters. I mean, all these different elements of when and how that you ask for the sale is going to make a difference on how well you close. And then are we clear on what are the most common objections? Whether that's I got to talk to my spouse, or I'm not sure if I can afford it, or I'm not, maybe I'll wait till the spring or the fall or the whenever I'm going to do this, or I need to get a couple of their bids. I mean, all the different things that come up all the time. Let's get them documented, not only so we know what they are, so what your team can expect, but also, most importantly, how do you want them to respond when those things come up? How can you train them and equip them with the tools they need? So just a quick flyer. Again, there could be other elements, but these are probably the 6 that I'm guessing if you're watching this, and maybe they may not be as well documented and specific as you'd like them to be. If they are, awesome, you're ahead of it. If it's something you'd like us to take a look at and put it through the lens through which we evaluate and help our clients level up, happy to do that. Just drop us a comment below. Let's just go with today's keyword. Let's go with sales, and we'll get you some of the tools you need to help get this stage of the process done. So stage one, document before you can delegate. Step 2, okay, we've got everything documented. Let's get my pen to work today. There we go. That's going to be number 2. All right. We're going to now move into train and calibrate. So we've got everything documented. Now it's time to get our team together to train and calibrate. So again, to give you an example, like I mentioned earlier with my client, he's got 3 different guys. They all have very different natural personality styles and natural tendencies, different experience sets that brought them to where they are. So we want to bring them together on a consistent basis, and you can find and determine the cadence that works for you, whether it's based on how many appointments are going on and how many sales opportunities they have, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, whatever kind of volume is going to make the most sense for your business, but have a regular set schedule that you're going to involve and incorporate training and calibrating to get everybody aligned on how they're doing it. So some key things to look at when you bring them in for that maybe initial or next training session. Some of the key goals for that step: get buy-in. Okay. Whether your next training session is going to be the first one or the next one that you're going to do, and it's been however long since your last training session has been, invite, as part of your training session, invite some buy-in, but through encouraging everybody to participate and say, look, hey, when you're out on your last 10 sales calls, what did you come across? What came up? How did it go? Give them a chance to not only talk about how great things were and how well they did and how much they crushed one of them, but then invite them to think critically and open up and ask for where things maybe didn't go so well. And that you might start to hear things like, well, hey, yeah, I wish, these leads are terrible. Or I wish we had XYZ thing so I could close more. Or maybe our financing options aren't as good as we'd like them to be, or whatever the case may be. Invite that buy-in. You want that feedback so you can really help address it before it festers and becomes an excuse or a narrative that your team is telling themselves as to why they can't close or why they're not able to perform as well as they'd like. More often than not, your sales guys should, at least, if not be entirely on commission, at least have some sort of base plus commission. So they're going to be pretty well aligned as to why and the reasons why and how things should be able to get them to be able to earn more and close at a better deal. So again, get the buy-in by inviting this open dialogue. You're going to get them enfranchised in what you want the process to be, especially as you go and train through some of these other stages through your documentation. They're going to be more bought in to doing the process that you've documented if you at least invite them to participate and have some input into what ultimately becomes the final process, for at least the current process for the next period or the next review period. Okay, so getting buy-in is key for you to be able to help your team come along with you. Number 2, role play. There we go. So this will be kind of the next stage. We want your team to be able to practice, especially if you're going to be introducing new language or new ways or approaches to how to deal with some of these common objections. you want them to be so comfortable in being able to relay them so that they've practiced them enough times. So when it's time to actually deliver, they're able to just relay it and work with the customer, be present with them rather than trying to think of, oh, shoot, what do I say when this happens? Or how do I do it in the way that's going to be most effective? And there's just no better way than getting folks to role play it out. It's going to feel uncomfortable for some, but we get past that uncomfortable because it's more uncomfortable is not closing deals. So let's use role play as part of your sales training and calibration process. And then the last stage we'll jump in for here is what are the tools and equipment that they need for their sales process. We wouldn't send people out on a job to do installation, but the actual tools they need. Similar thing in the sales process. Is there a one pager? Is there a flyer? Is there some sort of visual aid they need? Is there something that's going to be able to help support their sales process? Let's identify what those are. Think about the ones you're using now and invite your team to brainstorm and think critically about some other things that might help them along the way. Again, it could be something that the homeowner actually sees, or it could be something that your team reviews in the truck before they walk into the house. I mean, what is it that they can do to help make sure that they are aligned in the right state and have the things they need to be able to help move through and increase their likelihood to sell as much as possible. So there's a couple of quick elements under the training calibrate session part of it. All right, let's bring this home with number 3. So we've talked about document before you delegate. We've talked about train and then calibrate. And the last part is going to be measure and celebrate. So here's the key part of this. And this is something that the more guys I talk to, the more often I find that this isn't happening as consistently as most contractors would like, is that we're not getting this kind of feedback. We're not tracking the results, at least to the level that we need to when it comes to each individual sales rep's performance. And so we need to make sure that for each rep, they really own their conversion rates. They own the revenue that they're bringing in from the opportunities or quotes that they're doing. So as an example, again, you need to have a way for them to track results. And again, you can decide for your business based on your current volume, if it makes sense to report back on that on a daily, weekly, or at worst monthly basis for how many opportunities, how many quotes, how many bids, how many people did they talk to, how many calls did they take, and then how many of them actually went all the way through and put money down, closed, and turn into cash. So again, have an easy way for them to track results and know what that frequency, what that rhythm is, so that it happens. Next part, set goals. I know that this becomes pretty obvious, but let's be clear and explicit as to what they are. And perhaps you've got people that, again, with different ranges of skill level and performance over the last week, month, quarter, year, whatever it is. Their goals may be a little bit different at the individual level if you want to personalize them to help level them up, or you just might decide, hey, we're going to go at a company standard. This is the number it has to be. If you're not there, then we're going to have to make a change or we have to do something. So again, you've got different ways to approach how you want to have goals set, but make sure these are explicit and not just things that you envision and want to have happen. These need to be clear and something that they can really point to and know that they're anchoring towards and striving for. Because if they're not meeting goals, then that in itself, by having it set, should invite some dialogue and useful conversation for you with your team about what they need to be able to help make sure they're going to hit and exceed the goals that you've set. So track the results and set the goals. And then the last part, let's talk about how we can then really celebrate. So one of the things when we think about sales roles and sales guys, we usually tend to think, well, the thing that they care about most is money. They just want to get paid more. And to a certain extent, that's valuable and that's going to be part of it. I'm not going to say that's completely absent, but we actually done some research on this, and a lot of studies have been done to really dial into what leads to the longest term sustaining performance. It actually comes into a couple things that you might not think. And let's unpack one of those. Number one is rank. That ends up being a more important factor to most folks inside your organization, inside your team down the road. Meaning, do they have something they can shoot for to where they can become a senior sales associate, or they can become they could be some sort of way to feel progress within the company as they grow and as they achieve certain levels. Next one is recognition. Okay, from the classic employee of the month to something like, hey, top sales rep for the quarter. I mean, just have something where there is a public format where people can be recognized and put on the spot for doing a great job. That in itself tends to lead to higher performance and longer sustaining outcomes and employee retention, more so than money. It's number one, it's rank. Number two, it's recognition. Number three isn't money. It's actually prizes. Okay. And here's the example. Rather than giving someone an extra, we'll just use an easy number for memory's sake, $100 cash, you're going to get more mileage out of that same $100 if you provide it to them in the form of dinner and a movie. So they can go out on a date or with their significant other, or if they just want to go out and treat themselves into something you might not otherwise or normally do. Send them to a nice restaurant that's local. Send them to, or give them a hotel night somewhere close by. Give them that same equivalent dollar prize. Again, that same $100 is going to get a lot further mileage for you and for them if they get to do something they probably normally wouldn't otherwise do. Or maybe it's a day of the go-karts, whatever the case may be, find something that they would really enjoy as a prize they can shoot for, because what's going to happen is, rather than just for the same dollars, when they're out having that experience, doing that thing, they're going to be really not only enjoying itself, but then connecting that great experience, that positive emotion and memory and everything else that goes along with it, with working for you and being successful within the organization. So again, prizes tend to outperform the last one, which again can't be absent, but certainly is going to be a component. But the number four is money. That is going to be something you want to have at least a base level of market competitiveness when it comes to how you're compensating your team. But just know that as we've studied this over the years, those are really the four, in that order, levels of importance of how you want to, again, create a performance culture that's going to lead to long-term retention and long-term performance for your team. So rank, recognition, prizes, and money. So to recap, number one, document before you delegate. Number two, train and calibrate. Number three, measure and celebrate. Hope this is useful. Let me know how it goes. If you need some help implementing any of this for you or your team, drop again sales in the comments and we'll reach out, help brainstorm how we can help you implement some of these things, or give you some of the tools that our clients are using to execute some of these to help scale to the business that they've always wanted. We'll see you next time.